So just to wrap up this concept of trauma bonding, it very much goes hand in hand with that cycle of abuse. That cycle of abuse is reinforcing for that trauma bonding. And there are certain things that we've gone over that kind of put you more at risk for trauma bonding. So some of the things that can protect you from trauma bonding or even getting into an abusive relationship in general at all is having social supports and increasing your self-esteem. I feel like those are the two big things that are insulate us against that kind of. It doesn't matter how smart you are. You can have 14 PhDs and still be in an abusive relationship because your emotional life is different than your intellectual life. And sometimes it's even harder for people who have like this like really cerebral, really intellectual approach to life to kind of like marry that with the emotional side of things. So sometimes it's like, whoa, wait a second, like what is going on here? Like I didn't do a lot of growth on my emotional self because I was growing my intellectual self. And of course, like intelligent people aren't the only people who get into the cycle of abuse, but I'm just using that as an example. Interestingly enough, before the term trauma bonding was used, the only term for emotional attachments in abusive relationship was Stockholm Syndrome. So that might be a little bit more of a familiar term or concept for a lot of people, especially people born, I guess, before 1997. But that term wasn't quite broad enough to kind of encompass all the different situations which can lead to bonding or the way that it manifests itself. So again, if you have been in an abusive relationship, or if you are currently in an abusive relationship, you may or may not have experienced trauma bonding. Either way, it is nothing to be ashamed of or feel guilt about. It's a natural response to trauma, and there is help available for you. Please, please, please go and see a therapist, get connected with a support group, talk to trusted loved ones, rebuild some of those friendships and some of those relationships. Realize that you are not to blame for your abuse or your attachment to your abuser, and that you can heal from it. It is literally, the attachment is literally just our brain and our body's response to a situation in which it needs to survive. If you take away the situation in which it feels like it needs to survive, if you remove yourself out of that situation, then you can start really healing from that trauma bond because your body and your brain no longer need to be attached to that person. So use your resources, get connected. You can do it. Good luck.